All right, welcome to Vineyard 401. We're going to be talking about mentoring today. I did some studies on leadership at Fuller Seminary with a guy named Bobby Clinton, or Robert Clinton, and he's written some of my favorite books on leadership and mentoring. His book on mentoring is called Connecting, and I'd highly recommend it. A couple of the concepts that we're going to talk about come from that book. First of all, it's important to note that most leaders don't finish well. If you do a study in the Old and New Testament on the number of leaders that we have enough data to determine whether or not they finished well, you'll find out that only about 30% of the leaders, about one-third of the leaders in the Bible actually finished well. If we do studies today in seminaries and you just take a seminary graduate, they get into their first ministry position, they will, I think the statistics run after the first 5 years, about 50% are out of the ministry. If you stretch it to the 10-year mark, it goes to 70%. That doesn't mean that they all are not serving effectively. It just means that in terms of what they went into seminary to do and get into ministry, they're not doing it. So as I've walked with people through leadership over 30 years, what I found out is that I would say a majority of leaders don't finish well. By that, what I mean is that they serve faithfully over a lifetime till the day they die to the Lord. In other words, they don't disengage from ministry, from making an impact in the kingdom. So it could mean that they burn out and walk away from the church, they get burned by the church, they fall morally. Any number of reasons can contribute to not finishing well. But they've also done studies on people who do finish well. And one of the features of people who finish well is that they have good mentors in their lives. So finding good mentors is a huge, important task for every leader. So I want to first talk about the constellation of mentors. We all need a constellation of mentors. Not one person can fulfill all of our mentoring needs. We all need multiple mentors in our lives. So I want to draw just a diagram that comes from Bobby Clinton's book called The Constellation of Mentors. So in the center, we'll put you. And so the first type of mentor that most people think of that you need in your life is what we might call an upward mentor. So these are people that are further down the road than you, an upward mentor. They are people who have more experience than you, they have longer tenure in ministry than you, and they probably overlap with some of your giftedness, some of your area of expertise, or some of your area of passion. So these are upward mentors. When I moved to Kansas City to start Vineyard Church, I was 29. I did a study on all of the churches across the denominational lines in the city of Kansas City. And I had a few criteria that I was looking at. I was trying to find senior pastors who had been at their church at least 20 years. While they were at the church had grown evangelistically, and they had a relatively stable staff. They didn't just have super high staff turnover. When I did that research, there were only about 10 guys in the whole city. I mean, this is out of hundreds of churches. There were only about 10, and this was in 1990. I called all 10 of those, had meetings with them, and several of them became lifetime mentors for me. And so that's a really important part of what you need are people that are down the road that have really done what you want to do that can input into your life. All right, then the second kind of mentor that you need are people that are co-mentors. And these are people that are your peers. Actually, these people typically will have more time that you'll be able to hang out with. You probably spend more time with co-mentors, but these are people who are in the field that you're in, doing what you're doing. You learn from each other. You grow together. It's the iron sharpens iron principle. And so you can actually have several co-mentors in your life that are very important. The third area then that we need are downward mentors. And by that, what I mean is that you're mentoring people. So you don't just get mentored, but you actually give it away. We multiply leaders. And so you want to be finding people that you can mentor. I remember when I was in high school, my youth pastor told me that I needed to find somebody to mentor. and disciple. And so I remember there was an 8th grade guy that seemed to really have a heart for Jesus, and I invited him into a discipleship group. And so as like a junior in high school, I started mentoring an 8th grader, and we spent a year together in Bible study. And I started doing that with different guys. And from that point on, the rest of my life, I've always been inviting people into discipleship groups and just spending time in scriptures and prayer and challenging people in ministry and that kind of thing. So this is called a mentoring constellation. Now, here's a couple of key ideas about a mentoring constellation. You have to go out and find your own mentors, all right? And typically good mentors are busy people. They're successful people. There's not enough good mentors to go around, all right? So it's not like you just walk around and say, oh, God, I wish I had a great mentor in my life, and then just wait for somebody to plop out of the sky and say, I want to mentor you. I've never had anybody come up to me and say, I want to mentor you, But I've always put myself around people that I respect and that I admire and that I want to learn from. And I always just ask if I can meet with them. And so, like for busy mentors, you might only meet with them once or twice a year. You might just have a lunch or a breakfast or something like that, just once a year, twice a year, something like that. But still, if you ask and know that they're busy, if you know what you're going to cover when you're with them, ask key critical questions, then I find that most people will make time for you. All right? So another thing is that not everybody is a great mentor in all the areas that you need mentoring. So in the second part of this mentoring talk, I want to talk about the type of mentors that you need in your mentoring constellation.